Thank you, Julie, for this very nice intro. I want to present a new project. And this new project is a 70s black and white TV from the brand Philips. And it's a model TX711. The first time in probably, I would say, 50 years or so. So there you go. So now I'm going to grab it by the handle, the carrying handle, and slowly pull it out. There you go. What's the story behind this TV? Okay. Alright, so we're measuring the filament on pins 3 and 4 from the picture tube. So I should tell that this TV stood for a long time along the seaside, in some home at the seaside. By the way, if you wonder how I lubricated the mechanism of the on-off switch and the pot itself, I used some very fine silicone oil, like the one you're seeing in the screen. Okay, so yeah, I used very fine silicone oil. And I'll give the pot's exterior a little spray of WD-40 to stop it from rusting. The volume potentiometer is back in place. I soldered it back in, and that's it. That's the end of the story. I also cleaned the main PCB. And as you can tell, it looks really nice and clean now. Okay. So I gave also the metal parts, like this little cover here and this one here, a little bit of a treatment with WD-40, just to avoid any kind of rust. It's actually a very neat PCB. So in this particular case, I would say Philips did a great job. It's easy to comprehend. The measurement points are easy to find. The components are easily accessible. Overall, it's a really great design. So yes, in this particular case, I would say Philips outdid itself. So I'm really happy to have been able to work on this. It's a sheer joy. It's an absolute delight to work on this TV. So what I propose to do next, in fact, is to give the cabinet a cleaning. I couldn't resist. So in the end, I am going to disassemble the TV to clean it. And one of the reasons, or what motivated me to do it, is witnessing all the dirt inside the cabinet. Okay. So if I would have to work around the delicate electronics and the picture tube, it would take me hours and hours to clean it, while unmounting the tuner panel and the channel selection switches and the speaker takes me 10 minutes, and to mount it back perhaps the same amount of time. And once everything is out of the cabinet, cleaning it will truly become a breeze. Yeah, it will be a matter of just hosing it down, rubbing it with a sponge and a soft brush and a lot of soap, and that will be it. Yeah, so yeah, cleaning will be so much easier. So I'm left with one delicate thing to unmount, and that's the picture tube itself. Now, after studying it for a moment, I think the best way to do this is to simply release the grounding of the tube, which is this strap here, which is held in on one side by the spring here, okay, and then on the other side by a little loop which is hooked over a metal hook. You see it down there, okay, and once that is done, I just need to undo this screw and nut here and take off this clamp, this metal hoop. Once that is off, those two things are off, I think it's just a matter of very carefully and very gently removing the screen out of from between the brackets. So lifting it up gently and rotating it a little bit. And that will be it, I think. So give me a moment to do what I just explained, and yeah, I'll show you the result. Alright, so here it is, the TV gutted from its content. So the only thing that's left for me to do now is to release the picture tube without damaging the aqua dag, so that carbon layer on the outside of the tube too much, and then lifting it out. By the way, I mounted little connectors on the main PCB, which enables me to release the wires, you see there, of the deflection coil from the main PCB, and I did the same thing with the speaker. Okay, so yeah, that made my life a lot easier. So I would advise anyone who works on this kind of TV to do the same thing. Now, as you can tell, I'm going to leave the deflection coil on the tube, on the picture tube itself, but I'm warning you, be very careful, okay? These tubes are known to implode, and actually just afterwards to explode, okay? So if you're going to work on this, wear goggles and be extremely careful not to put any sort of pressure on the neck of the tube. So this part here, it's really weak, and if you hit it in the wrong way, it will just crack, and that will be the end of it. The tube will be dead for good. Alright, so now that I cleaned off with a very soft cloth like this and a little bit of alcohol the picture tube, front and all its sides, we can place the picture tube back inside the front bezel of the TV. Now I gave the bezel of the TV, or in fact you could say half of its cabinet, a thorough cleaning. Okay, so, and I even detailed it with, again, with a soft cloth and a little bit of alcohol to make it absolutely spotless. Alright, so what we need to do is place the tube back into its seating, and the seating of the tube is right here. Okay, so you can see the four corners where it sits. Alright, And so that's where we're going to place those little rubber corner mounts you see there. Alright, and where we're going finally to insert the picture tube. Now, some of you might say, oh, wait a minute, didn't you just say you clean it up? Well, yes, I did. And I know some of you will say, but why are there those ugly black stains inside? Well, I'll tell you why. So, I think you noticed that the cabinet is orange, is an orange plastic, okay? So, and in fact, the reason why you have those black smudges inside the cabinet can be seen easily just about here. So you see there's a scratch in the front bezel, okay? And the scratch reveals what was underneath the black layer, and in fact it turns out to be orange. So what they probably did at the Philips factory was press mold or inject mold, in fact, the cabinet, and then afterwards they sprayed the front of it with some black paint. So yeah, they weren't too particular, apparently, about it in the factory. So yeah, they probably covered up just the edge, really, of the cabinet, and then spray painted the front with black paint, and they left basically the gaping hole where the picture tube sits open, and that's what explains these black stains on the inside, okay? So the black paint actually nebulized and then settled on the inside of the unprotected cabinet. Alright, so you have a close-up now of the cabinet, and we're going to gently place the picture tube inside its mounting or its seat on the bezel. And you have to be really careful because, like I told you before, the neck of the picture tube is very, very sensitive to physical stress, okay? So if you're going to place the picture tube back into the cabinet, you better be sure that you're not placing any kind of heavy stress on the picture tube, okay? So there you go. I think you can just about see what I'm doing. So also you need, of course, to check the orientation of the picture tube. So if you remember, the high voltage connection was, if you look at the front of the cabinet, but from the back side, it was on the left side, okay, so on the speaker side, in fact, which is right here. You can just about see the speaker spot right here, okay. So obviously you need to make sure that the picture tube is placed correctly, because otherwise afterwards you'll have to unmount it all and to place it back. I put on top of the picture tube this little cover here, okay, just to protect the neck of the tube a little bit, and I'll only take it off, I'll only take this off once I'm done. Alright, mounting time. So these are the individual corner brackets for the picture tube, and there, as you may have inferred by now, there is one for each corner. So we place them exactly where they need to go. Okay. There is one detail that you need to remember. One of the brackets, or one of the corner clamps, you see me installing right here, also needs a little mounting clip to hold the wire harness of the tuner selector switch module. And in fact, that little clamp is this here. Okay, so it's just a little piece of metal that can be bent, you know, into a clamp, a sort of a clamp. And that one in fact goes right here in the lower left corner of the screen. Okay, so now we take a Phillips screwdriver and we start screwing. There are 4 of them. Needless to say, you do not need to go overboard when tightening these screws, okay? Because if you do, you might ruin the little plastic feet into which they screw, okay? So you do not want to do that, because if you over tighten the screws and you ruin the little plastic feet, you'll be in really deep trouble. Yeah, repairing those is nigh impossible. Okay, so you just need to apply enough strength so that they stay in place, and you can feel they don't vibrate anymore, and that's it. Yeah, no more force than that is necessary. Really, believe me, go easy on the screwing down. Like this. Obviously, the 4 screws are identical. Yeah, so there's no need to go look for a specific screw for a specific placeholder. So you can happily use either screw for either hole. So, okay. Needless to say, you have to be careful when working around the neck of the picture tube, okay? Because if you don't, well, I can tell you, once in my life, a long time ago, when I was still a very young lad, I had a picture tube in fact explode, actually implode, while I was doing whatever I was doing around it, and I was extremely lucky. The glass never touched me, okay? So none of the glass splinters that flew away touched me in any sort of way, and that's just as lucky, because I'm telling you, the glass that flies off of picture tube makes huge shards, very sharp shards, you know, almost like spear points. So yeah, you could say I was extremely lucky. You could call it even beginner's luck that I never got seriously injured by the flying glass. Okay, so picture tubes are a little bit of sleeping monsters that way. So here we go. The picture tube is mounted now. So what we need to do now is we need to mount the holding bracket. Okay, so the clamp, as it were, that holds the picture tube down to the front of the TV cabinet. Okay, this is brass. I cleaned it off with a little bit of WD-40, and you can see it gleams nicely now. So another thing you need to be careful of is that you hook it in the right place, of course, like this. Okay, and you should never ever put too much force on this clamp, okay, because like I said, the picture tube is designed to be able to handle a certain amount of pressure. But if you're going to clamp it down way too hard, the glass might rupture on you, and again, that would mean the picture tube exploding in your face, and you really don't want that to happen, okay? An exploding picture tube is like a little bit of a bomb, okay? So again, if you're working on these things, you do so at your own risk, yeah, and don't ever don't say that I not warn you, okay? So there you go. So now what I need to do is tighten this little nut here, so that the whole clamp assembly holds the picture tube nicely down into the front bezel. Alright, so I dressed the grounding wire up correctly. So I hooked it up right here on this little hook here, passed it over the screen here, then down with this spring to that hook. Obviously this is a grounding wire that will need to be resoldered to the main PCB, but for now the tube is mounted, yeah, and you can see exactly how it is mounted in each corner. Alright, so, and then this bracket here has this little thingy here which you use, come on focus, which you use to dress up the wire loom which comes from the tuner's channel selector and goes down to the main PCB. Okay, so this little bracket is essential, and then this is the other corner, the fourth one. Alright, so never tighten those screws down there too hard. Alright, so the speaker has a little washer, you could say, or an O-ring, which protects its edges. Okay, so you need to put it in like this. Alright, and the speaker's edges rests in fact on this little rubber ring. It's not a very thick ring, as you can tell. It's maybe 1 mil thick, but it seems to be enough to protect the speaker and to avoid any sort of vibrations going into the cabinet of the TV, apparently. So now in goes the speaker, and this is the speaker. I would say this is about a 2-watt speaker, maybe. Let's see. What does it say? Oh no, it's a 1-watt speaker. Okay, an 16 ohm 1-watt speaker. Okay, is there any date code on it? No date code. made in Taiwan. Okay, so as you can tell, the little speaker is in perfect shape. No traces of damage. So in it goes like this. Okay, and you need to orient the speaker in such a way that the connector for the headphones can go into its designated little hole right there. Okay, so this is about the right positioning of the speaker, so like that. Okay, so it's a little bit on the tight side, but it should work there, like that. Okay, so once the speaker is mounted, we need to mount the speaker clamp. To mount the speaker to the cabinet, you need 2 screws and 4 washers. Okay, and you need a small hole washer at the top near the screw's head and a large washer at the bottom. Okay, and the clamps are a little bit asymmetrical in shape, but basically they should be curved upwards like you're seeing right now. So you need to attach the clamp with 1 screw first, and one-handed this is a bit hard to do, but there you go. So you place it in the right stud like that. And you'll see one of the clamps is bent a bit more than the other, and that has a purpose, because you see the bracket should never touch the electrical connectors of the speaker. So we're going to tighten now this screw a little bit, not too much as yet. Voila, like that. And once that is tightened, sufficiently, then we'll place the other screw and the washers here, and we'll be done. And there you go. The speaker is fully mounted, and you can tell how the clamps work. And the speaker is really tightly in place. It's not going anywhere. Also, don't over tighten these screws. Just enough so that nothing rattles or moves anymore, but yeah, it's really not going anywhere. So don't over tighten these. But there you go, that's it. So what I need to do now is mount the little connector for the earphones, so you could say for the earphone plug, to the cabinet like this. And the orientation of it really doesn't play too much of a role. It was mounted like this originally, so yeah, it doesn't really matter actually how it's mounted, as long as it's centered perfectly in its little hole. So I repaired the on-off switch, which was right here, and we're going to switch on the TV set and see how much current it draws. So here we go. Alright, the TV is on. Yeah, there you go. Let's assume that is 100 milliamps. So that would mean that the TV set draws about 22 watts. But let's see there, yeah. Well, that's actually around about what it should consume. So it says here 27 watts on AC, but it actually draws I would say maybe a little bit more than 22 watts right now. This is a grid pattern that I sent to the TV through my pattern generator, and as you can tell, it now the whole picture fills the entirety of the screen rather nicely, and it's nice and straight. Now, it wasn't like that when I switched on the TV originally, and apparently while mounting the picture tube back into the cabinet, the picture got a little bit shifted. So this is one of the tabs that I want to show you, and if you look at the other side, you see it peeking right there, okay? So with the help of these little tabs, you can actually move the picture around. I mean, not by extremely much, but let's say maybe an inch or so in either direction, so up or down, left or right. So just for the sake of demonstration, I'll move this little tab here, okay? So you could say these tabs have a sort of a north, south, east, west function. So let's see what happens if I roll that tab upwards, okay? So here we go. You see, the picture moves up. If I move it in the other direction, there you go, the picture moves down. So when you mount back the TV set, it's quite possible that you accidentally, let's say, touch those magnets, because that's what they are. They are magnets around the neck of the picture tube, and by gently rotating them, either clockwise or counterclockwise, you can pretty much set the picture right in the center of the picture tube. And that's what I did, and it worked out rather nicely, okay? So, and in fact, I see that I may have to move it even a little more, okay? Let's see. So where is it? Oh, there it is. There. So here we go. Yeah, I think this is pretty close to what it should be. So there you go. So by moving those magnets, you can center the picture and even resize it a little bit in height. Alright? So apparently Philips, let's say, took the cheap solution of setting the width and the height of the picture by using two magnets on the neck of the picture tube. So, although the third knob was gone, I did have the stub of the knob left over, so this part right here, yeah, I still had, so it was still stuck on the potentiometer. And I looked through my collection of vintage knobs, and I found this little knob here, okay, which is cone shaped, and but it was brown, so and I think you can still see a little bit of traces of brown around the stem of the knob, barely. But, you know, what I did was I used a little bit of super glue and filed what I had of the original knob. I filed it pretty much flat, and I stuck my replacement knob on top of it with some super glue. And there you go. I think this is a functional knob, but of course, like they say, the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. Alright, so there it is. The little button that I recreated is right here on the on-off. These are the two original ones. So, although it's not a perfect match, it's close enough. Yeah. So, well, let's switch the TV on. There you go. Okay. Oh, it's rolling a bit. Hang on. So at the back there's the vertical hold button. There you go. Voila! There you go. So I know you're seeing some sort of weird flashes in the picture, but that has to do with the refresh rate of the TV being different from the refresh rate of the camera. So let me change the image a little bit. Maybe that might improve things. So there you go. Well, there she is, the Philips TX711, restored, completely restored, except for the telescopic antenna, which for understandable reasons I won't be getting in the next few weeks or so, or maybe even months. But aside from the telescopic antenna, it's completely restored now. So it works, it's clean, and what I didn't show you yet is the little panel which protects the tuning buttons behind it, right behind this little panel. And I made this little panel myself. There you go. Because of course it was missing on this TV. So yeah, I made one myself. Now, if you're wondering how I made this, I'll tell you. So this panel is actually a PCB, actually a one-sided PCB, okay? It was a piece of PCB I had lying around, and it had nearly the right size. I mean, height-wise and width-wise. I cut it to the right size, and I filed it, and more specifically, I filed, this is a bit hard to do with one hand, but I filed a round corner to it, you see, right here. And I did the same thing at the bottom. Alright? Also, I soldered little tabs to it at the back. And those tabs fit inside, I don't know if you can see those, but inside those little holes you see right there. Come on, focus. Right there. Okay? Here and there. And the little panel holds simply by press fit. You know, so there's no need actually for a locking mechanism or anything. You just put it with the little tabs in the little holes right here, and then you give it a light push like that, and that's it. Okay, so you might wonder what I did to make this actually. So, well, I started by taking a picture, of course, of the internet, and I had a close look at one of the original panels these TVs were sold with, and it turns out that the logo is exactly the way you see it. So it was just a matter of recreating the logo on a computer and then printing it out on a piece of paper, and I cut it out to the right size, and then with some spray glue I stuck it to the panel I made, and there you go. It looks rather nice, and it also looks more or less like the original. I would advise you, or if you're interested, just go on the internet and look up a few pictures for the Philips TX711, and I'm pretty sure you'll find a picture of this as well. Now there is one difference, one real difference, I mean where the logo is concerned, with the original. That is that I placed the Philips name, as it were, in the center of the logo, whereas the original, the Philips name, was more aligned with the top of the shield. Yeah. So, but aside from that, I think it's pretty close to the original. So now I want to give you a final look at the working TV. So here you see my take on a knob, on an on-off knob. So let me show you. There you go. Okay. So, and it's the volume knob as well, not only the on-off. So you can tell it works pretty good. So here we go. Voila. There you go. With sound generation and everything. Don't worry about these lines you see appearing in the image. Those are artifacts. It's because the camera is trying to synchronize with the scan speed of the image itself on the TV. Yeah, so there's a kind of an interference between both. But when I look at the screen, it's rock steady. Okay. So let me show you a few typical test patterns. So these are the grayscales, but the wide ones. These are the narrow ones. Another typical pattern is the grid, like this. Okay. So, I also have a number of test patterns like this one. Okay. And I can choose different styles. Let me see. What am I pressing here? Oh, okay. There you go. So yeah, these are the grayscales, but from top to bottom, for example. These are the diagonal laid out grayscales. So yeah, playing around with my the pattern generator is really fun. Now, obviously, what I intend to do is to have this little TV, for example, here in my lab, playing a movie or something like that, and then watch it in black and white. Why not? Okay. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how the TV turned out. It's really, really nice. So I hope you enjoyed watching this series on restoring a Philips Philetta TX711 portable black and white TV from 1977. Thanks for watching.